person in the world for armor-piercing information, and he says that about that time, there was the Japanese had developed a new thing called a flat-nose projectile, designed specifically, well, it was some back on that, but in other words, for anti-sub warfare. And what it would do is it would not ricochet off the water, and it had the propulsion to go under and actually hit the conning tower. So right now, the hypothesis that appears to be most consistent with the information that we have is that the flat-nose projectile was used, and that they were surfacing to use the guns because the deck gun, because nothing else was working. All the torpedoes just they bounced off. They lugged them into, the Japanese lugged them into shore. I mean, they were just horrible. But anyway, so, and the thing is, I believe that we can tell whether it is a flat-nose projectile or a regular projectile, because you can look at the shell hole, and if it's a punched hole, it's the flat-nose projectile. And interestingly enough, Yutaka Awasaki, our source of all information, did some research in Japan, and actually they started developing this flat-nose projectile. We even have a photograph of it way back in 1925 to be used against battleships and cruisers. Because what happens is the armament down below the surface of the water is much lighter, so they figure what we'll do is we'll get something that will, the shell will go underwater and pierce the ship at the base. So we don't know. We'll find out next August, about 15th to 16th.
Just because I think it's a wonderful story, could you talk a little bit about the sub-ladies?
What's it about?
The sub-ladies.
Oh, yes. My favorite subject. What happened is, I'm not sure where to begin, but we started off, Susan was doing a search one time on the web, just for anything on the Grunion, and she bumped into this search by a woman called Rhonda Ray. Rhonda Ray is incredible. She could run a multinational corporation as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, it was an old search, and she was looking for a guy called Paul Baines, and who was very distant related to her. And she's kind of one of these people that's an expert in genealogical searches and so on. But anyway, so I sent her, and I said, this is going on, and it's kind of an interesting situation. And she said, gee, I think I got interested in this thing. And so, being the organizer, she got a hold of this other woman by the internet. They've never met. There's three of them, by the way. They've never met. And the other one is Vicki Rogers. Now, Vicki Rogers at that point was recovering from stage 3 cancer, and could barely get out of bed and couldn't do anything. But she got involved in this project. This Vicki Rogers is just unbelievable. She can find, if it was Bin Laden, she could find him in a week, I think. That's so convinced of it. She's just an incredible person. And during the summer, she drives a tractor. She has a big farm down there. This is a characteristic of it anyway. But anyway, the three sub-ladies have now found relatives for 67 out of the crew of 70. And let me just tell you one or two of the stories that are just so mind-boggling. One of the people that they found was a sister of one of the crew. Now, and it's almost this, but this woman had actually been married, divorced, and then joined a convent. It's the only one in the entire Catholic Church that's done this. But anyway, she was in the convent, and nobody had any idea how to contact her, and she had lost contact with the rest of the family. And, so they hadn't heard from her for years. And so anyway, the sub-ladies got a hold of the rest of the family, and they said, my gosh, we found the Grunion. And, but they didn't know what to do to get a hold of Pearl Buck. But lo and behold, the next day, Pearl Buck called in just to say hello. I called one, and again it was a sister, and the guy, the husband answered the phone, and it was Geraldine was her name, and I said, can I talk to Geraldine? And he said, oh yeah, all right. And so Geraldine picks up the phone. He said, I don't need any. I got loads of them. Goodbye. And I got the word Grunion in. I couldn't get her off the phone. but these women are just unbelievable. And then we found there was a letter that I think the video points out that my mother sent out to everybody. And one of the things that had happened is that when the sub was going down through the canal, they rescued a boat, a life raft of, I don't know, 7 or 8 people that basically would have died. There's no question about the ship had been torpedoed. And one of them on there was a guy called George Drew, who somehow we think is one of our relatives, but we're not quite sure about that. But anyway, but he wrote a letter which is unbelievable. I mean, and he's only had a fourth grade education, but all I can say is it says something about education. It is the most remarkable letter. And anyway, what we did, lo and behold, the sub-ladies found his sister. And that is a big, big thing. You have a question?
Just had a comment. I'm a Naval Academy graduate.
Oh, really?
Service in nuclear submarines. My dad happened to be commanding officer of SS 222, which was only 6 numbers off of Rediscovers.
Oh,
He won a Navy Cross as well in World War II. And I have an uncle, Ed O'Connor, who went down on another submarine, and it was never located. So it's kind of interesting, coincidental really, that I should be here and the
Yeah, and what is your name?
Pardon?
What's your name?
Mitch Henderson.
Mitch Henderson. I like to get these names because one of the things that's been absolutely fascinating about this project is the amount of contribution from people all over the place, all over the world, really.
Right.
And in just a little way.
2 submarines that went down in the
That's
Pacific
right.
in World War II, and it's called the Silent Service for a reason. And one other thing is a little supposition on my part, but that class of submarine has a large pipe located in the back end of the conning tower where the exhaust from the diesel engines go. And if that was hit there, there would have been water that would have poured in
Yeah, the
right
induction valve.
down to the battery compartment,
Yes.
which is directly below,
Yes.
and causes explosion. So I don't know if that's what happened, but that's a plausible explanation.
That's very. Any other
Were
questions?
there any questions in the back? Joe, did you have a question? No?
Yes.
The problems with natural debris around the site, shifting sands under the ocean?
I
that
don't
would
know.
impede the photography?
It's on a 14-degree or 18-degree slope, and it looks like it's kind of sandy. We did find some debris down there. There's a piece of something 20 feet long, and the estimates of length are kind of hard to do with that depth, but basically what they do is they look at the first bing and the last bing and calculate the speed, and the speed isn't that precise, so it's kind of fuzzy math, let's put it this way. But I don't see a lot of debris, and I don't think we know. We have a diver that was up there, and he says the visibility is about 30 to 40 feet, and we don't have any seaweed. We do have seaweed underneath all over it, and I don't know what that will do. But I think we can still identify it. As I say, the thing that's very important right there, that is a specific thing. It's different on the Grunion than it is on all the later Gato class subs. But actually, even if it's